Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth, a member of the Armed Services Committee. Senator Duckworth, thank you so much for being back on the show.
It's good to be on. Thank you.
So let me ask you, how confident are you that this Respect for Marriage bill will actually make it to the president's desk? And secondly, are you satisfied that this bill goes far enough to protect same-sex marriage?
I am very confident that this bill will make it to the president's desk for his signature. I think there were very good compromises that were made, and we're going to get the 10 Republican votes to allow us to move forward with this. The bill is, really more clarification language to make sure that people understand where the law as it stands is. And remember that Obergefell is still the law of the land. It has not yet been overturned. So same-sex marriage is still illegal in this country.
Let me ask you, Ryan Nobles, my colleague on the Capitol beat there, talked about the lame duck session to-do list, and it is kind of long for Senate Democrats. You've got the reauthorization of the National Defense Bill. You've got to keep the lights on and avoid a government shutdown. You've got to address the debt ceiling. There's some talk of reforming the Electoral Count Act. Senator, what do you want to see your leadership prioritize here? What should be the biggest priority for Democrats right now?
Well, I agree that we need to get this same-sex marriage bill passed, but then I also would like to see the defense budget pass as quickly as possible. I don't think that we passed this in a bipartisan way out of committee back in the summer, and it's time that we get this passed so that we can fully support our military. And there's a lot of legislation in there, language in there that helps military families in particular.
Yeah, that's a bill that has a lot of other smaller pieces in it that are also important. A group of your colleagues were on the Hill today. They want a bill to give permanent protections to some immigrants. I want to play a little bit of this and then ask you about it.
Put the cards directly on the table. We know that it's important in December that we pass the DREAM Act, December of this year, when we return from Thanksgiving. Because if the House moves as we think it might politically, it becomes increasingly difficult after the first of the year to take up this issue.
Senator, is that something you'd like to see this Congress take up before the new year starts?
Very much so. It's long past time that we pass laws to help our dreamers, our DACA children as well. And that was Senator Dick Durbin, the senior senator from Illinois. He's been working on this for over 20 years, and it's long past time we do it. I actually have a piece of legislation that I've introduced called the Enlist Act that would allow people to gain legal status for serving in the military. Only one senator is blocking it, Senator Grassley. So there's a lot that we can work on if we can just get them to come to the table.
You talk about getting folks to come to the table. We've talked about this Congress and the lame duck. Let's look ahead to the next Congress, where we know the Senate will be held by Democrats by a very thin majority. It looks like, although NBC News still has not called it 8 days later, that Republicans will probably take control of the House of Representatives by a very small margin, if, in fact, the math continues to work out in their favor. Like, what, for folks who are looking over the next 2 years and going, okay, Dem Senate, Republican House, President Biden in the White House, what is one place where you see both the House and the Senate working together, collaboration between a McCarthy-led conference dealing with the Freedom Caucus and a very, thin majority Democratic Senate here? Like, what's one issue where there might be collaboration that we can look forward to over the next 2 years?
I hope we will pass a farm bill. I'm from Illinois. Farm bill is very, very important to our nation's ag sector that not only feeds the nation, but is beginning to fuel the nation in terms of our ethanol and other biofuels production. Remember that if the Republicans do take control of the House, it will be a very small majority, and there will be quite a few Republican senators who would cross party lines to vote with Democrats. There are moderate Republicans out there. I think that Speaker McCarthy, if he's elected Speaker, will have a hard time controlling his majority, as you've already said, and there will be a lot of Republicans that will cross over the aisle to vote with Democrats, and I think you'll see Democrats fully united, and he's going to have his hands full.
Before I let you go, and I know you have to run, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, as a veteran yourself, as a member of the Armed Services Committee, how you view the events of the last 24 hours in Poland and what we've seen as it relates to the international response to the explosion there.
Well, I was relieved to see that the rockets that fell in Poland did not come from Russia. Already, we have this grave mistake made by Putin. He's lost legitimacy. We need to continue to support our allies in Ukraine. Illinois has a big population of Ukrainian Americans and Polish Americans. In fact, the Illinois National Guard was training the Ukrainian military up until just a few months before the Russian invasion. So this is very deeply personal for us in Illinois. We need to continue to support Ukraine as they fight for their their freedoms, that they fight to protect and defend their own sovereignty. And I think this shows that we really must remain united. And it was a real, the last 24 hours have been pretty scary for folks. And I think it brought to the reality for a lot of folks what Article 5 of the NATO treaty means.
Senator Tammy Duckworth. Senator, thank you very much for being back on the show. We appreciate your time this afternoon.